All right, so we've got our tabulation, and we're able to basically determine the amount of insulin to administer. So let's take the data and actually provide that as feedback to the user when they submit the form. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this shape and we're going to create a type off of it, right? Because we're going to need that type to basically maintain this information and state on the React component. So really quickly, super easy, we're just going to call this calculation result.ts. We're going to export a type that is going to mimic the properties and types of each of these properties, and they're all numbers, right? So I'm just going to actually take these, bring them over, and we'll call this calculation result. And we'll make this a number. And there we go. So that type, and then what we need to do is just update our calculate insulin here and just tell it that we're using a calculation result. And I think what we instead actually want to do is put this on the top of the function here. So we're going to import that in. There we go. Calculation result. And because this matches the shape of our return value, it's just nice to sort of have a articulation of in correlation of these types. And then this is going to come in handy because we're going to use that in our component. So we've got this type properly set up. Now we can go over to our form and do something meaningful with it, right? So let's go to our insulin calculator. And basically what we're going to need to do is store that result in state. So I'm going to create a new const set calculation result, set calculation result. We're going to use state. We're going to use that type as a way for us to maintain that information in the component state. All right. And then now that we have this in the component state, I'm going to add my import. Now we can set our calculation result to to the function call, which is going to be calculate insulin. Created that function in the previous episode. And all we have to do is pass it data. And so everything works really nicely here because we know that the data that we get from the form is going to be valid. We also know that it's of type calculation payload. So we're type safe and we've got a really consistent, coherent API so that I know pretty deterministically that I'm going to get a high quality result. So I can set that directly in state here. And then I can basically delegate the display of this result to a component, which I'm going to do here. So we can call it calculation result panel, and we're going to send it the calculation result. So we're going to create a new component called calculation result panel.ts. And we're going to make sure that that result gets passed into the component. But we also want to consider the initial state of the form. There won't be a calculation result. So we have to make this optional, and we have to make it nullable. So right away, for our initial state, we want to basically have a handler for, ooh, that's some ugly code, Copilot. But we want to have a handler for if no result has been provided, right? And in here, what we're going to do is we'll start with a pretty simple div, and we'll style this as we go. Oh, did I not make this a TSX? I'm going to make it a TSX file for JSX support here. All right, so then we're going to create a class name card. And I'm going to use all the DaisyUI stylings in the markup to start, just to get the aesthetic that we're looking for, and then we'll extract it out into BEM styles. We'll make it, I don't know, 120. How big do we want to make it? Let's make it with 96. How about that? So card is a predefined CSS class provided by DaisyUI. And why don't we give it a shadow? All right, so then here, yeah, this isn't bad markup. It's already BEM'd out. We'll obviously adjust that, but calculation result. How about we make this recommended dosage, right? And then we will make, why don't we make this an H3, and we'll make the actual dosage amount significant, right? So we want to do here result dot recommended dosage, and then inside here we can kind of break down, okay, how much do you give for a correction and how much do you give for carb coverage, just to kind of define that number a little bit better, right? Just helping us with our visual display here. All right. So let's actually get this to display. We're going to import this in, and then calculation result or null is not assignable. Calculation result panel is taking in either calculation result or null. So why is it particular? Because the type that I'm passing in is going to deterministically be calculation result or null. It's actually never going to be undefined. So what I need to go back in here and do is remove that question mark. And then we should be in better shape. I think there's a mismatch in name, right? So if I change this to result, then we're in better shape. Okay. All right, so let's actually try to do this and see what happens, right? So, and what I'll do just to make sure that everything's working the way that I expect it to, I'm gonna just copy from our test data. So 150, 130. Let's just move this over here so that we can see. Target A1C 150, correction factor 130, carbohydrate factor 30, and then A1C reading of 200 and carbs of 50. So hit the calculate button, and already we can see it's a little ugly, but you can already see that we've got a fairly decent looking component here. So let's go back recommended dosage, and then what we can do here is we're gonna make this a stat value, which is a DaisyUI provided class, and we'll make this a stat. And that's looking a little better. You can already see it kind of taking shape, right? And then we'll make this a stat title. I'm going to get rid of these Copilot provided class names for now so that we're just dealing with DaisyUI. That looks great. And then why don't we call this stat description? Again, getting rid of that BEM sort of style. And that looks great. I'm pretty happy with that. What I'll probably do is let's make this text success. Let's look at what we have for provided CSS classes. This is what's so nice about using something like Tailwind or DaisyUI or both, is you can get really nice code assistance to find a good semantic color selection to use here. I could use all these crazy, named items, but I want text success because I want it to correlate with my DaisyUI sort of theme. So that looks great. And then I also want to make this text centered. What is it? Text center, I think. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. We should probably add another sort of qualifier that we're talking about units here. Let's see if that makes sense. And what we could do is we could take these and break them out into their own sort of stat collection here. But this is fine for our purposes, right? We're really all we care about is this number. So let's just make this recommended dosage a little bit larger, or predominant. Good. And then what happens if we do an MX auto here? I have a feeling it's going to move it way too off kilter. So what we want to do is we want to look at our insulin calculator, look at the styling for that. So container MX auto. Yeah, so we want to mimic some of this stuff. So what I would probably do is bring that out into a, let's call it, we'll probably need a different CSS, right? So, because we're dealing with a different concern. So we're going to create a specific calculator form. What did we call this? Insulin calculator. All right, and we're going to move some of this consideration, everything but the MY8, we're going to move into this kind of insulin calculator container element that I want to use. Okay, so we're going to call this insulin calculator. And in here, we'll go ahead and apply these styles. And so this is going to give me a consistent way to kind of space out and treat both the form and the result, right? So here in the insulin calculator, we're going to take all of this and we're going to encapsulate it with a div class name equals insulin calculator container. And I've got some ugly formatting here. And we lost some of the niceties that we had in place. Oh, because I didn't import the CSS. Yep. Very important. There we go. So obviously a lot of sort of alignment stuff still to work out here. I could take this form and increase the width so that it matches the result, right? So the result panel right now is width 96. So let's go ahead and remove that and move it to our container. And instead of making it, we'll do width 96 for default. And there we go. Everything's nice, much more nicely centered. All right, and then let's go back to our result. And, this doesn't really call this out as nicely as I would prefer. And it's kind of hard to see, right? So what can we do? We can add a little bit of a border. Why don't we do that? There we go. That looks much better. So you'll see too, as I increase my A1C reading, the recommended dosage increases and modifies as I mess with any of these values. You'll see the recommended dosage get modified. So there you have it. Pretty turnkey, easy way to create a simple calculator using wonderful tools like TanStack Query. I'm sorry, we're not using TanStack Query here, but we're using things like Zod, React Hook Form, just vanilla TypeScript and vanilla out-of-the-box React State, right? These are really useful tools for creating really useful applications. So hopefully you enjoyed this little series about how we're approaching React applications these days. I hope it gives you some ideas that you can take into your own work. If this series has helped you clarify any concepts or decide that you're going to adopt any tools, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what really stood out for you as part of this series and what tool you're using and why. So drop me a note in the comments, send me a DM, let me know how this video served you. So it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, and see you soon.